If you're watching this video, you are probably about to make a huge mistake buying a Samsung 970 Pro. But here's what surprised me after testing it for 6 months. The problems are so specific that most reviewers miss them entirely, therefore you need to see this before you click order for the best price. Click the link in the description. Now, this review is going to save you time, money, and a massive headache. But first I need you to forget every single speed benchmark you have ever seen. Because raw numbers lie, and today you're going to find out why the real-world performance of this drive has a dark secret that Samsung does not want to talk about. Therefore, stick around. This is not what you expect, so let's rip off the sticker and get into it. You see, the specs on paper are genuinely mind-blowing. We are looking at Samsung's flagship VNAND technology, with those insane sequential read and write speeds up to 3,500 and 2,700 megabytes per second. Respectively. It uses the PCIe Gen 3.0 by 4 NVMe interface, and it is wrapped up with this sleek nickel-coated controller and heat spreader. Samsung even includes their Magician software for drive management and optimization. And with an Amazon rating of 4.8 stars from thousands of reviews, everyone seems to love this thing. But here is the first massive red flag that almost no one discusses. Therefore, let's talk about the price: $366.88 as of this recording. Ouch. That is a premium asking price for a PCIe 3 drive in a world that is rapidly moving to PCIe 4 and even PCIe 5. But you are paying for reliability, right, for that Samsung Pro pedigree. Therefore, I fired it up in my test bench, and the initial results were fantastic. The Crystal Disk Mark scores were hitting the advertised numbers. The system booted in seconds and file transfers felt blisteringly fast. But then I decided to do something most reviewers do not. I simulated a real workload, because that is where the problems started to crawl out of the heat spreader like digital cockroaches. So joke number one: what do you call an SSD that performs great in benchmarks but gets nervous under pressure? A synthetic sellout. The first major issue is heat management. Samsung talks a big game about the dynamic thermal guard and the superior heat dissipation, and in a well-ventilated case, it is mostly fine. But if you are using this in a laptop or a small form factor PC, or if you are doing sustained large file transfers like video editing, the controller gets hot fast. And I mean making a grilled cheese sandwich hot. When it gets hot, the dynamic thermal guard does its job. It throttles to protect the drive. But that means your 3,500 megabyte per second read speed can plummet. Now, you are not buying a Pro drive for it to act like a budget drive when you need it most. This is the core contradiction of the 970 Pro. It is marketed to tech enthusiasts, high-end gamers, and 4K 3D content designers, the very people who will push it into thermal throttle territory. Therefore, the very promise it makes to professionals is the first thing it breaks under professional use. But this is just the opening act. The plot thickens considerably. Therefore, let's address the elephant in the room: PCIe 3 versus PCIe 4. The Samsung 980 Pro and other competitors have been out for years offering similar or better speeds on a newer standard, often for less money. So why buy the 970 Pro now? The argument is always reliability and write endurance. Samsung uses MLC VNAND in the 970 Pro, which is more durable than the TLC found in many consumer drives, including the 980 Pro. But for the vast majority of users, even power users, that difference in endurance will never come into play. You would have to write dozens of terabytes every single day for years to wear this drive out. It is like buying a pickup truck with a towing capacity for an elephant when you only need to move a sofa occasionally. It is overkill that you are paying a massive premium for. But here is the second interjection: what if you are that professional who needs that extreme endurance, the person moving petabytes of data? Well, there is another problem. Therefore, let's talk about the real-world speed consistency. When the drive is cool and empty, those sequential speeds are amazing. But once you fill it past about 70% and you start doing mixed workloads, the random write performance can become inconsistent. This is a deep dive technical issue, but it manifests as occasional stutters or hiccups during heavy multitasking. Not a deal breaker for everyone, but for a drive with a Pro label and a Pro price, It is something you should know. You are not getting a perfectly smooth experience, you are getting a mostly brilliant one with occasional moments of stage fright. Okay, joke number 2. How many Samsung SSD engineers does it take to change a light bulb? None. They are too busy optimizing thermal throttling algorithms. So we have covered heat, we have covered the outdated interface, and we have touched on consistency. But there is a fourth pillar that might be the most important of all. Therefore, let's talk about value. And the competition, $366, is a lot of money. You could get a 1 terabyte 980 Pro and a decent steak dinner for that price, or you could get a competitor's PCIe 4 drive with a heatsink that will not throttle and have money left over. The 970 Pro exists in a weird niche. It is too expensive for the average gamer or enthusiast who would be better served by a 970 Evo or a 980 Pro. And its thermal limitations make it a questionable choice for the hardcore professional who needs sustained performance in a compact space. It is like a sports car that can only drive fast on perfectly cold days, a fantastic piece of engineering, with a very specific and often inconvenient operating window. But wait, I promised you 4 problems, and I have only given you 3. Therefore, here is the final and perhaps most controversial issue: the Samsung Magician software. While it is powerful for cloning and firmware updates, it is also bloated and can be intrusive with its notifications and automatic scans. For some, this is a minor annoyance. For others, it is unwanted background process baggage. You are paying for premium hardware and getting nagware as a bonus. It is the software equivalent of a car salesman who will not stop talking after you have already bought the car. Okay, joke number 3. What is the difference between the Samsung 970 Pro and a loyal friend? One handles constant pressure gracefully. Now, I have been very critical in this deep dive, because that is what an honest review requires, but it is time for the resolution and a massive contrarian snapback. Therefore, despite all these problems, I still think the Samsung 970 Pro is a phenomenal drive for a very specific person. Let me explain. If you are building a high-performance desktop PC with excellent airflow, and your primary concern is not peak sequential speed, but absolute data integrity and longevity over a decade, then the 970 Pro with its MLC NAND is still a compelling choice. It is a set it and forget it drive for mission-critical boot drive where you want legendary reliability. The problems I outlined are real, but they are deal breakers only if your use case clashes with them, if you are not thermally constraining it, and you value that Samsung Pro reliability above all else. This drive is a tank. It will outlive your motherboard. Its performance for the vast majority of desktop tasks is still blistering fast, and that 4.8-star rating did not come from nowhere. Most users are thrilled because they are not hitting its thermal or consistency limits. Therefore, here is my final take. Do not buy the Samsung 970 Pro if you are using it in a laptop, a small form factor PC, or if you need the absolute fastest sustained writes for huge file transfers. And do not buy it if you are just gaming or doing general productivity, because you are wasting money on endurance you will never use. But you should consider the Samsung 970 Pro if you are building a new high-end air-cooled or liquid-cooled desktop, and you want one of the most reliable boot drives ever made for an operating system and applications, where you can keep it below 70% capacity. Think of it as the specialist, not the generalist. It is the surgical tool, not the Swiss Army knife. So after all this, where does that leave us? With a clear answer. The Samsung 970 Pro is not a bad product. It is a misunderstood one. It is a legend from a previous era, holding onto its throne with sheer quality while the world moves to newer standards. Its problems are not flaws so much as they are boundaries. And if your needs fit within those boundaries, you will have an incredible experience. Okay, final joke. Why did the Samsung 970 Pro cross the road to get to the other side of the data transfer? But only after it confirmed the thermal conditions were optimal, and it had a 99.9% chance of success. Therefore, if after all this you have determined that you are that specific user who needs this specific tool, then you will love it. And for the best possible price on Amazon right today, click the link in the description below. I have negotiated a deal for my viewers, and you can check the current pricing availability. Sometimes it dips much lower than that $366 sticker, So click the link to check the price and make your decision from there. Thank you for watching this honest review. If it helped you save money or make a better choice, hit that like button and subscribe for more.